Some time ago, I told you that the Pergear 100mm f 2.8 2x macro was the cheapest 2x macro lens on the market. I lied to you. That title actually goes to this lens I have here, the Pergear 60mm f 2.8 ultra macro 2x, a very macro lens that seems to offer amazing quality for less than $170. Could this really be true? In this video, we're going to find out. My name is Miguel Azorín, and I welcome you once again to Natural Portraits. I told you about the Pergear 100mm 2x macro wasn't entirely a lie, since it is indeed the cheapest 100mm 2x ultra macro lens on the market. But the title of the cheapest 2x ultra macro lens on the market actually belongs to this lens, its 60mm version counterpart, a lens that has an official price of $169 on the Pergear website, but can be found even cheaper on other stores like AliExpress. And you might be wondering, can such a cheap lens really offer acceptable quality? I asked myself the same thing until I tried the 100mm version and saw the quality it delivers. If you're curious, I invite you to watch that other video after this one. I'll leave the link below in the description. So when the brand offered me the chance to try this 60mm version, I didn't hesitate. Like all the macro lenses I use, this is a fully manual lens. And in macro photography, especially extreme macro autofocus isn't really necessary, since at high magnifications, we focus by moving ourselves forward and backward until we find the focus point. This makes the product much more affordable and allows investment in what matters most, optical quality. We're talking about a lens made entirely of metal, except for the caps. It really feels like a powerful lens. In fact, it weighs approximately 600 grams. It's a heavy lens and it covers up to full frame format. On the lens, we simply find two rings. A manual aperture ring that allows us to open and close the aperture from its maximum opening, f2.8 to f22 without clicks. Personally, I've never liked this because when we want to stop down the aperture by 1 or 2 stops, we don't have complete precision to do so. But well, we can do it approximately using the markings on the ring. And of course, we also have a manual focus ring that allows us to move the focus from infinity all the way to a 2x magnification point with a minimum focusing distance of 18.5 centimeters. Other than that, there's not much more to say about this lens, except that it's incredibly cheap and available for Sony E, Fuji, L mount, Canon RF, Nikon Z, and Micro Four Thirds mounts. Will this Pergear really deliver the quality people talk about at such a bargain price? Let's find out, and in extreme conditions too, because we're going to take it out for a night macro photography session. Alright, we're ready for this night macro photography session with the Pergear 60mm f 2.8 2x macro. With the AK diffuser attached and everything set up, we're now completely ready and excited to start shooting some incredible macro photography at night. Orion, come on, let's go, boy. Let's head out and explore together and see what wonders the night has in store for us. Come here. Where are you going, man? Could there possibly be a more joyful and excited dog than this one? When we go out together for night photography, capturing the beauty of the evening? Well, at night it's super common to come across scenes like this. In fact, if we have our headlamp on, we can already see them from a certain distance. We see some shiny little dots on the ground. And what we find is this, with spiders like the one we have here. This is a Lycosa tarantula, a Mediterranean tarantula. This one is small, it's quite a tiny spider, it's a juvenile, and they usually come out at night. They are nocturnal animals, so let's try to photograph it. Even though it's a juvenile, it's still quite a large spider. I'm going to set the aperture to f11, and, well, in this case, let's see what we can do. We'll start with a 1:1 magnification. Alright, so now let's try increasing it up to 2x. I'm going to increase the flash power because, well, as with all lenses of this type, when we go from 1x to 2x magnification, we lose some light. that f2.8 really doesn't hold up. I have to get extremely close. The minimum focusing distance is really, really short at this magnification. So just by looking at it, I get the impression that this lens, no matter how much it says that the minimum focusing distance is 18.5 centimeters, that's not true. And this is a lens that we're going to have to use with animals that stay very, very still. Otherwise, it will be impossible for us to photograph them. Well, over here we have a spider mold, and if we look closely, we can see the owner of that mold on one of the leaves of the pines. And the thing is, pine needles are excellent places to find small arachnids and tiny insects. This is a spider that's completely stretched out on the pine needle. So let's try to photograph it. In this case, given its size, I think I'm going to use a 1.5x magnification with an aperture of 11. A fairly narrow aperture. Let's see what we can get. Well, this way I can move a little farther away from the spider. All right, here we have a fantastic hunting scene. The tree, this one is full of black and red beetles. But specifically right here, one of them has been caught by a beautiful crab spider, quite a large crab spider. These spiders are known for staying inside, in this case leaves or inside flowers, even waiting for some insect to arrive so they can catch it. Well, this beetle has been caught by this spider. It's a bit difficult to get the camera with the diffuser in between the leaves without disturbing the spider too much. The spider is trying to take the beetle away, so in this case what I'm going to do is set the aperture to 11, which will give me plenty of depth of field and magnification. 1. And let's see if we can photograph this scene without disturbing these animals too much. Things you come across when you go out to shoot. This to me doesn't seem very macro because that's one huge toad. All right, so let's move on to the last macro scene of the session. And it seems like tonight is all about spiders because basically that's all I've found, spiders and giant toads. Over here we have a pretty beautiful spider. It's a spider with a green colored body. And in this case, we're going to thoroughly test how that 2x performs on this lens, this Pergear 60mm. As we've seen before, we have to shoot from a very, very short distance, which means this lens won't let us photograph all the insects or animals we'd like to. At least the more skittish ones will take off as soon as we get close. But in principle, it seems to be a lens that delivers quite good quality. Let's get closer over here. And we're going to try to break this spider's web. Well, what are my conclusions? Final thoughts about this Pergear? 60mm f2.8 macro 2x. I think its greatest strength obviously is its price. We're talking about a lens that, as we've seen, gives us very high quality for less than $170. This is something we're not going to find. I don't think there is any other lens on the market. But on the other hand, it does have some important drawbacks. For example, one of the biggest drawbacks I found during this session is the aperture. No clicks. And also, in the case of the unit I have, the movement is quite smooth. This means that when I'm framing with the camera, you can feel how the aperture ring is constantly moving. So this, added to the fact that I never really know exactly which aperture I'm at, I'm positioned in an exact way, which makes it not as precise as we would like in a lens of this type. The second major drawback is that minimum focusing distance, which is really, really short at 2x. This means that this lens is only usable in certain situations, and we can't use it for a wide range of macro photography as we would like. The solution to this problem would be to go for a lens with a longer focal length. For example, the Pergear 100mm f2.8 macro 2x, which we also tested on the channel. A macro lens that is a bit more expensive than this 1-0, much more, really. It's a very cheap lens and well. If we want that versatility that a macro lens gives us, 2x, I would probably go for that version, the 100mm version. And well, with that, I'll say goodbye. I hope this information has been useful to you when choosing your next macro lens. See you again in the next Natural Portraits video. Goodbye.